Bonsoir tout le monde. J'espère que ça va bien. Vous avez
Good
pris
evening,
avantage
everyone. I
un peu
hope
de
you're
soleil
good.
aujourd'hui.
I hope you took advantage of the sun
C'est
today.
bon.
So-
Ce soir, on a
So this
trois
evening,
réunions.
we have actually
Premièrement,
three
une
meetings.
audience
First,
publique,
like a public
on
hearing
entendra une
that
présentation
we
de la
will
part de
hear a
Plan
presentation
360.
from
Après ça,
Plan
on a notre réunion
360,
ordinaire
and then we have a regular
qu'on
meeting
va aller à travers. Puis par
we'll
après,
go
on a une
through,
réunion
and
avec
then
eux sur
like
un
we
item.
have an in-camera
So,
session on one
avant
item.
on va s'assurer que les gens quittent la
So
salle
we want to be
avant
sure
le huis clos à la
like the
fin,
people leave like the room
on-
before
ça
the
sera,
in-camera session at the
C'est
end
pas
of
mal
the
évident.
well,
On va terminer.
will be quite
Donc,
obvious.
pour l'audience publique,
For the
c'est pour
public
considérer
hearing,
d'arrêter
It's to consider like the bylaws Z-14-44-64Z. I would need someone to open like the public hearing, moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland.
Vous voyez le doigt en même temps que tu prennes une gorgée.
I saw your hand while you were taking a sip of water. All in favor, saying aye. Against name.
Merci.
Carried. Thank you.
Bonsoir, Guilhem.
Good evening, Guilhem.
Parfait, OK.
So I pronounce it
Guilhem
right.
Sanchez est un employé
Guilhem Sanchez is an employee with Plan 360 with the Regional Service Commission. Before it was the Beaubassin Planning Commission. So it's been gone for a while. So good evening, sir.
C'est bon. On va mettre la présentation sur le...
So I will post the presentation.
Bonsoir et merci.
Good evening. Thank you.
La demande aujourd'hui, c'est pour un
So the request is amendment like to the Shediac bylaw to facilitate like the construction of housing units like for people with reduced mobility on Main Street. It would apply to one specific project. In terms of process, so this is a public hearing, so that's where people can be express their opinion on what's being proposed. Just to give you some context, so the Shediac bylaw goes back to 2020 and requires like along Main Street or general commercial or central commercial to reserve the first story of the new buildings to commercial users. And in 2021, the province adopted like an act like saying like a building with more than 4 units, they have to offer at least 1 unit dedicated to individuals with the mobility problems. So along Main Street, it forces like the developers to build higher and bigger, so to add like an elevator. So it's a proposal for example, like intermediate building with businesses and residential on the first floor. Usually it wouldn't be possible. However, like the municipal plan is mentioning many things. Just to summarize, like the principle of development is to strengthen like the commercial activities of the town, especially on Main Street. So to have like a core commercial, and then also the mixity of users, like in the first floor of the new buildings, with the residential unit along Main Street. So see the orientation of the municipal plan for the town development allow to modify like the bylaw to adapt to needs of individuals with mobility issues. So the first story for new buildings has to be dedicated like to businesses. And the housing unit usually are the second floor higher, and is proposed to go up to 50% for residential, and maintain also like the front on Main Street completely like dedicated to commercial use in order to encourage commercial development and make the Main Street more attractive. And it allows also to build housing for individuals with mobility problems without impacting like commercial users on Main Street, and also the new housing will be more accessible along Main Street without necessarily having to build with an elevator like inside the building.
L'arrêté il a été publié sur le site.
So the bylaw was published on the municipality's website. We did not receive any comments at Plan 360, and it's the same for the province. We send like the note to everyone, and nobody commented like specifically.
Cet arrêté il a été aussi présenté au
This bylaw was also presented at the PRAC. in April, and the council can vote positively, and this is like the proposed bylaw for the administration. Thank you for your attention, and do not hesitate if you have any questions. Thank you, Guilhem. So if I'm catching, it's a conflict between like the building code and our actual bylaws. It will be adjusted accordingly. It will not force like a building, part see residential in the commercial zoning to build with in elevators. It will allow for smaller buildings, like part of it will be commercial and part will be residential. So it's to make the bylaw more efficient. So question, Paul Boudreau, I have two questions. Thank you for your presentation. So accessibility, is it like the developer will have like to build like some ramps, or? Yes, it's mandatory, so there is no possible like to go against those regulation in terms of ability. Also for parking, do you think like to have like a parking space for people with special needs? Yes, it would be part of the bylaw. Thank you.
Je ne vois pas d'autres questions de la part des membres du Conseil. Donc,
I see no other question from the council members, so thank you very much.
non? OK, c'est bon. Quoique on n'avait pas reçu, merci bien, Guilhem, quoique on n'avait pas reçu de commentaires écrits,
we did not
soit la municipalité,
receive any comments in writing, like either at the commission or municipality. We still allow the public who are here this evening to give their comments if they have any. If do not have any comments, that's still okay. So we give you the opportunity. So I would ask you like to come up from. Everything is recorded because it's also translated. So good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. So the addresses on Main Street. What are the addresses on Main Street? You mean overall Main Street? From which part to which? From Canadian Tire up to the exit for Parley Beach. No farther than Parley Beach. So it stops at the exit. Parley Beach exit?
Donc jusqu'aux limites de Shediac, là.
Up to the limit of the former town of Shediac. Yeah, just by Ultramar. So it's not really at the light. So there's part of Main Street that is it's still part of the town. So the commercial part, it would also apply there, up to there. Thank you. Sometimes visually, it's kind of difficult to see.
Donc, il n'y avait pas d'autres questions pour la part numéro 16, donc j'aurais simplement besoin d'une motion pour
I would need a motion to close like the public hearing.
Proposé par la maire suppléante,
moved by Deputy Mayor C.B. Colette Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Joël Després. All in favor, signify saying aye. Against nay.
Adopté. Merci.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Une réunion de complétée.
When the meeting is completed.
Un petit peu plus courte.
Yeah, that one was a little bit shorter.
Donc, pour un bonsoir à notre
good evening again to
conseil.
Now it's our regular meeting for the council.
Faire loader ça, hein? Ça devrait venir. Yeah, stallé.
He stalled.
There we go. Il faut-tu donner un petit peu de temps? Là, ça commence à fonctionner. Belle technologie. Seulement pour vous noter que nous réunissons.
Please note that we are gathering on the unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people, whose ancestors signed a treaty of peace and friendship with the British Crown in the 1700s.
Donc, Monsieur Greffier, on peut
Mr. Clerk, we do have a quorum this evening. Everyone is here in person, so it's a small change. Often we had one member like who attended remotely, and the next one is conflict of interest. Any council members who would like to mention a conflict of interest on items on this agenda? Seeing no one,
Prochain
Thank
point,
you.
c'est l'adoption
Next
de l'ordre du
item,
jour.
adoption
Là, je
of
vais
the
seulement faire
agenda.
une petite
And
note avant.
I will only
Donc,
maybe
c'était en
give you a
réponse
couple of
à
notes.
quelques
It
questions de la
was
part des membres du
in
Conseil
reaction
vis-à-vis le point
to answer
15.6
like
de
a
l'ordre du
couple of
jour.
questions, like
Je voulais juste fournir quelques
for
précisions aux membres
15.6.
du
I would
Conseil.
just like to give you a few
Essentiellement, le 15.6
specifications.
à l'ordre du jour, c'est
Essentially,
une
the
motion apportée
5.6
par un
is
membre
a
du Conseil.
motion
Il
brought
s'agit
by a
d'une demande
council
pour
member.
reconsidérer une motion
It's a request to
adoptée lors de la
reconsider
réunion du
like a
Conseil en
motion
avril
adoption,
2023.
like
Donc, si le Conseil
adopted
adopte
in a,
l'ordre du jour tel que
in a
présenté,
meeting in
ce qui
April
inclut le
2023.
point
So if the
15.6,
council
cela confirme que le
adopt the
Conseil
council,
désire
it confirms that the council
reconsidérer la
wishes
décision.
to reconsider
En
like
d'autres
the
mots, s'il y a
decision
une
made in
proposition pour
2023.
enlever
In
le
other
point
words,
de l'ordre du jour et
if
que
there's
celle-là
a
est
motion to
adoptée,
remove that
cela
item and
signifie que
this
le
one does
Conseil
not,
ne désire pas
so this
reconsidérer
means like the
la décision.
council does not
Que
wish
je
to
peux vous donner cette
reconsider that
chose-là.
decision. Just to give you like
Donc,
the specification,
j'ai simplement besoin d'une proposition
I
pour
would
adopter l'ordre du
simply
jour.
need a motion to adopt the agenda.
Avec
And Miss-
l'information
with the
que tu viens
information
de donner,
that you
puis
just
l'information,
gave us, and
par
also
rapport à
the
l'ordre du
information
jour,
like
je
on the
recommande
agenda.
qu'on enlève
I recommend
le
that
point
we
15.6
remove
de
like the
l'ordre du
item
jour, parce que c'est un
15.6
sujet
on the
qu'on a
agenda
déjà abordé et voté.
because it's
J'ai une
a
proposition de la suivante, c'est Bigolet
matter we
Est-ce que
already
quelqu'un
like
qui appuie?
voted on. It's a motion made by Sylvie Colette Boudreau.
Seconded by Councillor Harry McEnroy. Donc, sur l'ordre du jour modifié,
On
c'est-à-dire
the
sans,
amended
sans le
agenda, so it means
15.6.
that without the 15.6.
Si ça passe pas, je reviendrai avec l'ordre du jour
If
original.
it's not adopted, I will go back with the original
Sur l'ordre du
agenda.
jour modifié,
On the amended agenda, knowing that there might be a little division, I would ask the people to raise their hand if they're voting in favor to adopt the agenda without 15.6.
5,
5,
6 membres en vote.
6
Je pense
members.
6. Tous contre.
I'm counting against.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, ça veut dire que c'est moi qui fais la
Six.
décision.
So then I'm kind of
Celui qui est dans le
making
point
the
qui était
decision.
déjà considéré
Since if
par le
an item
Conseil,
that was
je vote
already
pour
considered,
l'enlever de l'ordre
I'm
du jour.
voting to
Donc, l'ordre
remove
du
it
jour
from
est
the
adopté.
agenda. So the agenda has been adopted.
Prochain point. Adoption
Next
des
item,
procès-verbaux.
adoption of the
Le
minutes
du 17 mars 2025.
of
Je sais
March
que vous avez eu la
17,
chance d'en faire la lecture.
2025. So
J'aurais
you-
simplement besoin d'une
you
proposition
should have
pour
the
adopter le
chance to read
procès-verbal.
it. I need a motion to adopt this.
Proposé par la maire suppléante,
Moved by Deputy
appuyé du
Mayor
conseiller Joël Després.
and seconded by
Sans
Councillor
faveur,
Joel
environ
Després.
oui.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Contre non,
Against nay.
adopté. Si
Motion
vous avez un
carried.
appel, certainement. Parfait. Sylvie Joël. Tout le monde a voté en faveur, c'est bon.
Everyone voted in favor.
Numéro 6. Donc, nous avons
Number
deux
6,
présentations
we
publiques
have
ce
two
soir.
public
Premièrement,
presentations.
Madame Stéphanie
The first one, Mrs. Stephanie
pour,
Cormier,
nous présenter les états financiers.
to
pour
present
notre
like the
dernière
financial
année fiscale,
statement
qui est de
for our
janvier
last
à décembre 2024.
year, like from January
Bonsoir, madame.
2024 until January 2025. So good evening.
Oui, tu just mettre sur l'écran, tu veux dire? Ouais.
Where you want
Okay.
to put it like on the screen?
On va commencer avec
We'll start with the
comme le résumé financier, si ça aide à aller
like
sur l'écran.
the summary, if it helps,
Ça
like
va arriver. En langue blanche, OK.
C'est ça. Ouais. C'est comme une couple de pages avant ça, je crois. Là. C'est ça. Juste
There we go.
A couple of pages before. So,
avec bonsoir tout le monde.
good evening, everyone. I introduced myself. I think I met like the majority of the council member. My name is Stéphanie Cormier, and I'm a main director with Dorn Grant Thornton. So we are responsible to audit your financial statements. So with myself, I'm with Brian. She's a director also working on your file. And today we are here to present like the audited financial statement and go through like our report that is a summary of our audit results. We will start with the financial summary. So the first item we're comparing like the excess, the CCSP, so it's what we call PSAB. So this is we're probably more like familiar to see like the financial statement with local governments, but so we make adjustment like to bring your financial statement like to following the PSAB, like the public accounting standard. So the PSAB, you have an excess of 3.9 million. If we look at the two lines, this is local government, so general operating would be like a surplus of 51,000, and the water would have a surplus of 216,000. So, item 2, we're talking about the long-term debt. I just want to make sure this is a summary of financial statement. You should have received like a detailed copy, about 30 pages. So we only did the summary. So if you have any questions on the big document, you can ask your questions. So the long-term debt, note 6 financial statement. So the opening 12 million, and you got advances 5 million. So you refunded like 1.2 million. So your balance was 15.8 million for debt. For corporate mobilization, so the accounting value is the value, is the cost also of your capital and minus the amortization. So the net accounting value opening 55.6 million. So they were purchasing like close to 23.4 million. So the majority, like 14.3, were roads or mostly like Bowbridge Street, Main Street and Pleasant Street, and also like 4.7 million with buildings, and mostly were their fire station. They were also stationed 14,000 amortization, 3.3 million to come to a net accounting value 75.6 million. Next page, we're looking like the receivable, note 3 of financial statement. It only gives us like a breakdown of the amount, the receivable. So we have like credit 800, and the one for the receivable for water fund. So these would be like the fees for water, 996,000 receivable capital. So it's really like for the funding you get from the government, like for projects. So this one would be 3.2 million, and the sales tax 906 million receivable at the end of December 2024. Suppliers and payables. So we give a breakdown. So we have suppliers 3 million, payables like 6.3 million, capital benefits obligation 300,000. So these are sick leave, and interest on debt like 50,000. So for that out 9.7 million. Next item would be page 6, financial statement. So this one is the summary of the cash flow. So net cash flow like from operating activity. So it's really like your operating activity like 9.7 million. So the net cash flow for investment activities. So it's like the purchasing of corporate 23 million, and the next cash flow like coming from funding activities would be the debt or the banking fee, 18 million, so come to an increase of cash flow 4.7 million over the year. So next page, we have a summary of the schedule of reserve funds, so schedule 4. So it's divided like by the different funds, general operating reserve. So we have like general capital and other capital reserve to increase the value at the beginning, a total of 5.3 million. So they were transferred like close to 1.3 million. The interest of 275,000 to total reserve at the end 6.8 million. We always do the maximum amounts that you have to put on your reserve, 5% of the budgeted expenses for the previous financial year. So the general operating fund and your water reserve fund. So the water was followed, but the operating was above the maximum. So the 920 versus like I think maximum was 1.10 million 737,000. It's a little bit above of the maximum allowed. Next item is a debt ratio. So for the last 5 years, the trend like for the debt ratio, operating reserve, so 6.9, the end of the and water operating 17.8. So we see as a rule, like we give general rules like under 20%, but you have major projects coming up. So it's always it's good to look at to keep an eye on the debt ratio, like for significant projects coming to the town of Shediac. Next page, we have the trend for expenses. It's divided by different sectors, so transportation services, recreation and cultural service, general government services, protection services, environment, health and hygiene, water services. So it's only showing like the trends with the expenses. Like, I think we have about 10 years, just to give you like a visual of the expenses. And the next page, is it like the key financial trends, like the difference between your total expenses, like in blue, and the warrant of assignment in red. On the next page, we see like a couple of key financial trends concerning like the net debt, the long-term debt. I think it's in purple, and the net debt is green, and the bank loans are in red. So it's showing the trends, like when it has to do like with debt and loans. I will go through the next document, and then we'll do the questions at the end. So the next document is when we made our report, municipal council. So it's really like the goal of the report, like is to have an open discussion with you, with your audit and your consolidated financial statements. And also it helps like the municipal council to understand our strategy, like where are the risks, what are the results. So it is really like a summary of our audit for the council. We have a list of deliverables. If we go to the next pages, we have a table showing the deliverables. So it was done in November, like we did the planification. So we always do like audit planning, and we did our audit work in March, April, and today, May 5th, is the day we are presenting the financial statements, and we communicate our results. So in terms of the status of the audit, we received like a signed copy of the affirmation letter today. And the only other thing that is outstanding. It's only the approval of financial statement. Usually it's done at the end of your meeting. In terms of independence, we report we did not have changes. We just make sure like our team members are independent when it comes to do like the audit procedures. Next page, we're talking the significant audit risk and results. It's really based on risk. So when we do our planification, you see where in the financial statement you have more risk, and that's where we will do more work. So for us, the risk we identify. One risk, the risk of fraud due to segregation of duties. I think we mention it pretty much every year.
Ça, je dirais que c'est probablement dans la majorité des
It's probably the majority of small businesses where there's a limited number of individuals working in your finance department. So as soon as you have like a staff member, we have access to two tasks, either the approval or declaration of financial information. It can create like a problem for a task segregation.
Habituellement, votre personne.
Usually, like your individual, like in the finance director, has access like to all the information.
C'est là où ça peut créer des fois.
So that's where it could create sometimes like some fraud risk. So in reaction to this risk, we'll test like your journal writing. Those were done maybe like during the year. So we just select a sample based on the criteria identified. We use also like a system to identify like transaction we would like to check. We go through like the accounting estimates. Because that's where like you could get more bias. We also test like the master file of the providers, so we did not find any anomalies. The next risk, important risk, accounts payable. So the risk could be like underestimated, or expenses could be reporting in the wrong period in terms of procedures. So we did like internal. We examine internal control. We test the tendering purchase process. So we did like a sample to test this. We also perform research for unrecorded liabilities, and we want to see like if some liabilities paid in January should have been included in December, and we did not identify any misstatements by completing the next page. Like it's employee compensation, so it's the accounting estimate with the obligations in terms of sick leave. We consider like it's a complex compensation because sometimes you have to hire an actuary to do this, and also put the hypothesis that were done, the actuarial information. So the annual salary increase of 3%, discount reduced to 1.5, and the retirement age of 60. So your obligation at the end was 300,600, and usually like you have a full actual assessment like every 3 years. So you had one done last year, so this year is only an extrapolation. So in terms of procedure, we always look at the hypothesis used, and we get a copy from the actuary report, and we confirm we did not get any anomalies in our testing.
Classe qu'on cible dans les états financiers,
c'est other place we look is the water services revenue. So the risk identified is like the revenue and accounts receivable associated with water services could be invalid. So we just give you some information. So the receivable at 1.2 million at December 31st. It was close to 1.2 million last year too. So this amount include receivable, approximately 905,000 that are over a year old. And there would be like an allowance for doubtful accounts recorded, 227,000, like against those receivables. In terms of process, we look at our internal controls, we check, we verify like the sample, and we see like if the collection of the receivable is done. We analyze the ratio, and we do like we calculate like the global revenue. Well, we calculate like the water revenue, and we did not identify any misstatements while completing audit procedures.
La prochaine page, on parle de loi
The
sur
next
les
page, we're
gouvernances
talking about the
locales.
local
Ça
government law.
Il y a des telles limites qui doivent être
so there are some limited that has to be followed. So one,
pour financer les opérations du
the
fonds général sont limitées à
borrowing like for
4% du
general
budget.
operating fund, so for, it's limited to 4% of the
Les services d'eau, c'est limité
And
à
the water
50%.
services is limited
Ça fait
to
qu'on confirme,
50% of
que ça a
the
été respecté.
budget, and that has been respected.
Emprunt interfonds,
Interfund loans,
payables entre les fonds, sont en
the
conformité avec
amounts
cette exigence.
payable
Ça
are
fait
in
que
compliance with that
les gens,
requirement.
ça vient à faire des transferts
So the
interfonds.
requirements in terms of interfund
Pour les frais de
loans,
distribution d'eau,
in terms of water distribution costs,
donc il y a des limites aussi qui sont
there are
utilisées,
limits that are authorized under the law. We didn't see any anomalies there.
La dernière chose qu'on mentionne,
And the last thing that we mentioned is disclosure of reserve transfers
attaché à la note.
related to Appendix 4 of the financial statement. We have a explanation of all the reserve transfers and all the council motions for the approval of those transfers. We've included that in the financial statements. You now need to divulge all that. So in terms of our procedures, we recalculated established limits. We looked at the review note and we didn't find any anomalies. Under Schedule 3, it's a segment disclosure. That's a presentation that's required under public sector accounting standards in Canada. We analyzed Schedule 3. We didn't find any anomalies. And the last point on that page, there are we talk about the reserve funds. We already mentioned this in the other document. There was one of the reserves that was a bit beyond the limit. We do mention it in our report. Next page, adjustments and uncorrected misstatements. We have no adjusted misstatement to report. We didn't make any adjustments during our audit, just to confirm that. Next page, other internal control. The two items that we included in the report are the repeat points that remain. So when we look at your audit of your financial statements, according to our auditing standards, we have to look at internal controls.
Ça fait qu'on fait pas une pleine audit de vos contrôles internes, mais on a besoin de garder ceux-là qui sont reliés à l'information financière. Ça fait que vraiment, comme ça reste à la direction, puis le conseil de s'assurer qu'il y a des bons contrôles overall, mais nous autres, on garde plus ceux-là sur l'information financière. Ça fait que les deux points qu'on a mentionnés, c'est comme je dis, c'est des points qui étaient déjà là l'année passée. Un étant la séparation des tâches qu'on a mentionné un peu plus tôt dans le rapport. On montre aussi ici comme des contrôles compensatoires que la ville puis la direction a mis en place afin de offsetter le risque de cette déficience-là, si tu veux. Puis on a aussi mis quelques recommandations qu'on recommande qui pourraient encore réduire le risque encore plus. Puis là, le deuxième point, c'est le processus d'identification des risques. Ça fait qu'on a juste noté que la ville ne possède pas un processus d'identification des risques documenté. Ça fait qu'on recommanderait de documenter ça
to document that
pour aider la ville
to help the town to identify risks.
Prochaine page,
Next page, we're just confirming independence. And the last point that we just added is related to the gifts of donations of assets. I talked about this to Mr. Leger a bit. The town of Shediac over the past few years, in terms of construction, there's been a big boom, let's say. So there's something in terms of PSAP called donated assets. So that's when a developer will develop a street and he makes a donation to the town and offers a street. That's supposed to be in your financial statements. It's supposed to be assessed and recorded. And in the past, it's not something that was done, and for years it was probably not significant. But it's been a few years now that there's been a lot of construction. So the town, there's staff has a plan to record those assets in the future, and we're seeking to make sure that it will be assessed and present in the future. It's not an easy calculation to make. It will be a bit of work to be done on this one, but we're here to support staff on that one. I also mentioned that's the PSAB aspect of things. It doesn't impact your local financial statements. It's public sector accounting aspects that are involved here. Next page, it's technical updates. These are some highlights around accounting. There'll be some changes to the public sector. It's 1202. Some changes as it in terms of presenting financial statements. We can work with staff to make sure it's presented properly based on standards. And in terms of insurance and audit, we didn't take note of any major points that could have an impact on things. So Schedule A, that's a letter of engagement letter. We received a signed letter of your engagement letter. And Schedule B is a draft of the letter from staff, the management representation letter. We've received a signed copy. And Schedule C, it's a draft independent auditor's report. That is our report that states that we don't have any reservations. It's a clean audit report. We don't have any exceptions or anything to take note of in our report. And that's basically it for my presentation. So if there are any questions or comments, well, thank you very much. I'm mostly looking at the first part. The other, it's in terms of when we have a financial staff that's larger, we'll be able to separate out tasks. We're at least taking the measures that we can now. But I was looking at for the debt ratio. The debt ratio diminished again with the work that we've taken up, and that we'll probably continue to undertake. At some point, maybe the trend will be a bit higher. But from what I see on your end, the municipality has a great financial position. And considering that there's a major project that we're seeking to do, listen, it's good to know that we have a bit of flexibility, some financial flexibility to undertake some larger projects. So we'll see what that will come where appropriate. I'll add a comment, if you will, Your Worship. So your debt ratio, so in the detailed financial statements, bank loans went from 2.5 to 17 million. Those are temporary loans, let's say, until these are for recent works, until you go seek out debentures, as you will, then the ratio will adjust based on that. With a ratio with that 17 million, I presume that if you haven't had it so far, in the next 12 months, it would turn into long-term debt. So that will have an impact on the ratio as well. We made some pretty major investments on Main Street, if only on Main Street, in the last 3 years as a council. They'll be done for this year. So yeah, traffic will flow better. A few questions from council members. Councilor Roland Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Stephanie. I would like to come back to your first document. Could you, it's 4.7. chart, Schedule 4, Reserve Fund, a few questions there. You seem to say that we have an excess of 1 million and then the maximum 900,000, that's the maximum. Is there a legal issue here
Ça
or
fait que ça, habituellement,
usually
faudrait s'assurer.
you have to make sure
Ça fait que la province pourrait demander des
the
questions.
province could ask you some questions once they get a copy of the financial statements. I know that myself and Mr. Leger have spoken about it. You want to make sure that in 2025, that's something to watch. The maximum is determined. You know what it is right away. Yes. It's 5% of budget expenses of the previous year. It's based on revenue. So it's something to watch out for. I know that there's already been a time when the town went beyond it, and I don't know if there were any questions asked by the province. I wasn't there then, so that's why I'm here now. That's why I'm asking the question if there's a legal issue. Mr. CAO, if I might say, the position of our financial statements at the end of 2024 was what Ms. Cormier is presenting. The situation was corrected, actually. We made a transfer for as an operation for a grant that we gave this year. We're no longer in the same position today as we were during the audit. Thank you. Just to specify, those maximums are only on your operating reserves. So your capital reserves, there's no maximum. This is just for operating. Thank you. This is a question that I've asked in December to the accountant at the time, and I was told that I'd have a better answer once we had the financial statements that you're filing tonight. I'll try again. I'll try my question again. As you can see, so far we have a surplus. The reserve total is 6.8 million on the same document. 6.8 million. My question in December, when we transferred funds, because that's how it works in municipal world. It's a bit strange, but that's what it is. So that's what it is. The 6.8 million. Here is my question. And if you don't know, you can come back to me. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but my question is this. So right now, the way it's working, we are operating in Shediac in this municipality, there are two funds. There's the Shared Services Fund. All the citizens of Greater Shediac, the town of Shediac, that's a budget. There's another public works budget that citizens of the old limits of Shediac are in. And the citizens outside of those limits pay 40-odd cents that goes directly to the provincial government that the town of Shediac does not see. My question is, out of that 6.8 million, how much of that 6.8 million that is truly an accumulation for public works and an accumulation in shared services? And if you don't know, that is fine. I can tell you that I don't know just like that. Well, could we look at that? Here is why I'm asking the question, Stephanie. As a counselor, I'm a bit preoccupied. I want to make sure that people of Shediac, and I will say this like this: if public works in this has 3 million of the 6.8 million, I think that we need to spend that on infrastructure in the old limits of Shediac. You can't go build a pool with that 3 million because we'd be doubling the taxes of citizens of the old limits of Shediac. So I just want to make sure, as counselor, that there's a division there to be made at some point, so that we make sure that we spend money based on the right accounts. That's a question, and you can come back to us with the answer. And you mentioned also, Stephanie, that we didn't do this, and I can understand that maybe there was a commitment from the CAO that the donated assets, you were talking about the streets, and you seem to say that your company would be working with the municipality. I would presume that that the 2025 financial report that will be filed in 2026, that there'll be something, there'll be an assessment, and it would say what are the additional assets, because as you know, there are more, as you say, there is more streets being written. That's going to be internal, well done within a year. If I can answer the question, obviously, when the auditors made us aware of this, the team made an effort. Well, let's start with 2024. That's the year that's underway. We were able to determine the amount of assets that were given in 2024, but we don't know how far back to go. When was the last time it was entered? So we need to do a certain exercise going retroactive 2023, 2022 until we get to where we should be. This is an exercise that will take a bit more time. The team Bob's team will certainly play a role, but I want the next head of finance to play an active role in that file. In a perfect world, I'd love to settle all that in 2025. But we will start 1 year at a time and we'll work our way back. But to say that we'll have something in 2026, there maybe not, but there will be some figures that we don't have just yet. Yes. So I would say that the easiest figure to determine would be the number of kilometers or linear meters of street, but that's the easiest figure to come by. The harder figure is how do you multiply that? What do you multiply it by? Is to we have done other municipalities that did that type of work. It's not a small spreadsheet, I'll tell you. There's some detail allocated per linear meter, everything below the street and all the pave and the curbs. So it's to determine what cost is to be allocated to all that part of the street. It's not an obvious calculation. Usually, it's an engineering department that's involved, that's involved with the accounting department. And in terms of the asset management plan as well, there's an assessment, and that will tell us all of the assets that we're responsible for and what we can assess. We'll know if it's a road that's just paved. Is it paved? Does it have water? Does it have sewer, etc.? So we'll be able to determine that. Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Your Worship.
Conseiller Peter Bro.
Councilor Peter Bro, my question is about accounts receivable. You mentioned that there's 1.2 million in accounts receivable. 90% of the amount, 92% of that amount has been owing since 2023 or before. I know that they're working on solutions, but in terms of accounting, how long can we keep such amounts on our books until the province tells us, well, you need to take them off, such an amount off? What are the rules to be followed? I'm sure that the amount's not changing over the past few years. Are there rules before the government imposes something upon us, some sort of measure?
Ça fait qu'une partie,
Part
une partie
of
importante aussi
an
de ce
important part
sujet-là,
related to that topic, I know it doesn't go down
si
quickly.
une maison qui se vend,
If there are houses that are sold,
l'argent se fait
the
collecter
money is
éventuellement.
collected
Ça fait que c'est ça
eventually.
qui a été comme
I
l'argument
think
du
that was
passé.
the argument in the
Il
past.
y a une créance douteuse.
Or certainly
cette
some
créance douteuse-là, si je me rappelle bien, est plus,
dubious debt.
reliée à comme
I think it's
business. Ça fait
related
que
to
c'est comme des
businesses. They'd be
des business qui doivent des
businesses
fonds
that
d'eau,
owe
parce que ça marche
money
pas
for
la
the
même façon
water.
qu'une
It wouldn't work the same way as a house in a residential. If it was sold,
l'eau, le
then
d'eau serait collecté.
the water bill would
Ça
be
fait,
collected. Legally, can we keep it on our books
ça
for
fait-
years and
je
years?
peux dire
Well,
légalement, je pense que
I
je suis
can't
pas-
say
je
it
suis pas capable
legally.
d'être là, mais,
I'm not a lawyer.
côté comptable,
In
ça,
terms of
c'était
accounting,
l'argument de-
that was the
on vérifie
argument
ça aussi, ça
where
fait qu'on
we're checking it as
sélectionne
well.
l'échantillon
So
des
we
maisons
select
qui ont
a
été
sample of
vendues
houses that were
pour
sold
voir
over the
si
year to see
le montant recevable
if
d'eau
the
a été
amount
collecté.
of accounts receivable for water was collected, and we do that testing. We see that it's being collected. And that's for that reason that we're fine with the amount that's remaining there. Legally, I don't know. That's a question for a lawyer.
Merci.
Thank you.
Parfait. Quelque
Great.
chose qu'on peut,
Something
chercher de
that we can
l'information.
perhaps
Y
seek
a-t-il
some
des-
information
en
on.
termes de- y a-t-il des règles
Are there
qui
rules
s'imposent à un moment donné ou pas?
that would be imposed upon us or not? The government can say you need to receive that over the year, maybe.
Bonne question, ça.
It's a good question.
On chercher. Je sais que ça fait longtemps que c'est là.
I know that it's been there for a long time.
Il me semble on aurait été
It
dit,
would
bon,
seem to me that somebody would have told us this before. I'm just guessing at this, but
chercher ces renseignements.
we will seek those information out.
Pensez
so,
à Patricia Beauchevalier?
Councillor Patricia Brooke-Chevalier, thank you, Your Worship. It's a bit, you rather answered my question. I looked into the financial statements. This is, they're not water accounts. We never foresee bad debt in 2023, didn't have any. So that must be businesses or page 19. We don't put it in the revision. The amount, the amount would not have changed. The forecast would not have changed much. If the forecast would have changed, there'd be, well, to tell you why it's 227.42 and just a $30 difference in the 13,000. I'm not sure why. It's big amounts. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed much over the year. The allocation was pretty much what it was last year. I don't know the financial statements from before, but it's pretty much the same accounts, business accounts that are there every year. So this is maybe more of a question for staff. Administrative services. It's talked about the building, rent and maintenance. The budget is 478. That's for renovations on second floor. Is it the renovations for second floor? Is it for the IT system? We invented 75,000 in 23 and 56,000, but now there's 116,000. Is that also because of the IT? I saw the first figure, but the second one, the 40,000, the extra 40,000, that was for IT. That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Those are all your questions. Great. And thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to present the financial statements. And as I was with every year, it's a pleasure to work with the team, your staff team. You have good people working there. It's a great, it's really great working with them. And I want to thank you for granting us the opportunity to provide the service to you. Have a great evening. So, Mr. CAO has a question. Stephanie, do you have something that you have to read with us, leave with us? A final version by email for your signatures for the financial statements. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. So 6.2, Friends of Riverside Park, presented by Mr. Sean Dempsey.
I'm assuming in English, Mr. Dempsey, that's a guess, but
if it please,
your choice, essentially.
I'll proceed in English. The intent originally was to comment on the motion that's now been withdrawn from the agenda, but with council's permission, I'd still like to make the presentation.
Sure.
Your worship, members of council, my name is Sean Dempsey. I'm a lawyer and partner at Actus Law in Moncton. I'd like to thank you again for the opportunity to address all of you this evening. Actus Law has been retained to represent Friends of Riverside Park, which is an unincorporated entity, a group of individuals interested in the preservation and proper use of certain lands situate within the town of Shediac. Friends of Riverside Park would have supported the concept of tonight's motion, which makes reference to the Englobe study. Option 2B in the Englobe study, which seems to be the recommended option, contemplates the use of land that is situate on the west side of Riverside Drive that is identified by parcel identifier PID 70668063 and contemplates the acquisition of that land. When speaking to this land, I'll hereinafter simply refer to it as the land. I mentioned that Actus Law had been retained by Friends of Riverside Park as it intends to file an application with the court to apply for a full title declaration that certifies that the town of Shediac is the owner of the land. We have commenced preparation of such an application on behalf of Friends of Riverside Park. In preparing for the application, we have completed research with respect to the title of the land. At the core of this research, there is a 1962 deed from the Royal Trust Corporation to the town of Shediac. It is our position that this deed not only transferred title to the land to the town of Shediac, but also imposed certain obligations on the town. Friends of Riverside Park has also engaged the services of a licensed surveyor who has prepared a plan and who will also be preparing an affidavit which will form part of the court application. Our next step in the process is to provide a notice of intent to apply for a title declaration, which we hope will not be necessary, as we hope the town will take steps to accept its ownership of the land and to fulfill its obligations to the residents of the town of Shediac under the deed from the Royal Trust Company. Again, Friends of Riverside Park would have supported the concept of tonight's motion as it believes that to mandate the administration to proceed with the plan of operation according to our strategic plan for water access for small watercraft on Riverside Drive, as recommended in the preliminary design study, and to proceed with a modified version as described in the report is consistent with what the town of Shediac's obligations are. So the intent of making the presentation was to put forward the position of the Friends of Riverside Park and to indicate to council what the position is, or their position is, with respect to ownership, and to indicate that they do wish to and do intend to proceed further to try to enforce their position with respect to ownership. So I thank you for the time, and I stand here ready for questions if there are any.
Well, thank you for the presentation. I don't have any questions, and I imagine that the next step will be filing. That'll be at your pace in that sense. I don't have any further comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, councillors.
Bon. Prochain point l'ordre du jour. On n'avait pas de correspondance.
Next item on the agenda, there's no correspondence to share, but we do have standing committee reports and special committee reports for the fire department. I see the fire chief and the fire prevention have left, actually. Officer have left.
Okay. Donc, pour le prochain point, c'est comme j'ai dit.
Next item is the fire department. We can see the fire chief's report, Donald Cormier's report, his usual report. There's some numbers there. And if you have any questions, well, the fire chief is absent to do this, actually.
Prochain point, c'est
Next
le
item,
rapport du directeur général.
the CAO's report. Mr. CAO, thank you, Your Worship. Pardon me. It looks like nobody wants to listen to my report. Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to take the opportunity to thank the council, and they came last week for the meeting, staff meeting, to help to serve breakfast, and they met with staff. I can tell you that I received comments on both sides. Who's that? Who's he? Who is she? I saw that was a great exercise to bring some people closer, bring the council and staff closer together. It's certainly an activity that I would like to have happen regularly, to provide some opportunities to staff to see who are the elected officials, and have the elected officials see who is working for staff. I'd like to see it happen regularly. I'd like to thank you for that. In terms of municipal operations, obviously tonight we'll have a recommendation. We granted the contract for Calder Street, but we are also foreseeing an information session for businesses.
Invitations were sent and to talk about the impact and also to answer their questions on the work and the impact it might have on the sector. Very similar to what we did like with other projects, and we were working in collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce for those invitations. But for the Beaubridge projects, of course, this evening we'll be making another recommendations on this project. As for like the community life, well, thank you to the councillors who attended like the session of the volunteer recognition appreciation last week. I had the opportunity to attend, and we have a lot of people active in our community. They offer their time for free, and I think it's a great opportunity to thank them like for all the work they're doing on a regular basis, and also I would like to congratulate the community life team for organizing this activity. Bravo, Judy, to you and your team for this evening. Also a reminder that the AGM for the Downtown Corporation will be held this week, tomorrow. So I'm hoping like some of you will be present to see like how the last year went, and maybe a couple of other information. There will be a meeting, the next meeting for the review committee for the council composition. So the first meeting was held a couple of weeks ago. The second meeting will be tomorrow evening. So the file, we're making progress on this file. In this matter, we have two positions open for this municipality. One will be closing this week. Is the I'm forgetting the role. I think Bob, can you?
Oh, geez, j'ai un blanc de mémoire.
Will be pour asset.
Memory blank. I think it's the facilities assistant and the coordinator for asset management, and the other one is the finance director. So this application will close on the May 22nd. A lot of individuals who are interested, and they are showing like good skills. So we're looking forward like to sit with the applicants and that are interested. So this is my report for this evening. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any questions for CEO? Yes. Well, one comment. I just wanted to say thank you, Judy and your team, like for the volunteer evening. It was really fun. I don't know if I like the two ladies that were laughing in front of me, or the comedian itself. Two ladies, a little bit older, they were volunteer, and they laugh. I think I enjoyed more seeing them laugh, but it was great. Great evening.
Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin, question pour
Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin, question for CEO. It was a great evening, but the only comment I received There was a table that was quite Anglophone, and they almost did not understand anything. So their intent is not to come back if it's the case, and the comedians, so they were young, youth from school, they were talking about something else, and they found it wasn't appropriate for those youth, just to mention it, like.
Parfait. Moi,
Perfect.
j'avais pas eu l'occasion de
I did not have like the chance to attend. Like I had the wedding shower like on from my side of the family. So at least like our deputy mayor was able to say a few words on behalf of the municipality.
Donc, prochain point, numéro 10, recommandation de la
10,
commission.
recommendations from the Regional Service Commission, nothing for unfinished business. And one thing under new business, so the grant for Jeux de l'Acadie.
Monsieur DG ou Julie,
Mr. CEO or Julie, if you could give us some background information.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Alors,
thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for the next final of Jeux de l'Acadie will be held in a neighboring community. So it will be the city of Dieppe, and we received a request to see if we would be interested in contributing to the activity. And we will certainly have some athletes from who are living like in the town of Shediac that will compete at the regional games, and they might try also like to qualify like for the Southeast team. But we also have some residents who might help as volunteers to the organization of the activity. Essentially, it's up to the council to decide to see if it's appropriate to give a grant for the next final in Dieppe. So I don't know if you would like to add anything.
No. J'ai pris pour acquis, j'ai pesé le piton.
Yeah, just took for granted. Now Shediac is part of Kent. We change county. Already hearing like the competition seems to be more challenging for the Kent region. Might have a better chance, but there's also Capelli and Barachois, like they're also like included in the new county, so all like the north and south Kent. So it's a decision from the Jeux de l'Acadie. So we know like when we compare like to the students like in the Greater Moncton, there's way more. It's a greater pool of athletes and usually more talent. It's always a challenge, but it might play in our favor. Councillor Janice, if you would like to read. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Grant Jeux de l'Acadie. Be it resolved that the town of Shediac contribute $1,000 to the organizing committee des Jeux de l'Acadie, COFCHA Dieppe 2025 Inc., and that the funds be taken from account 1-21033 grants. I shall move, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. So we did the same like when it was like the 2 years ago. So it was.
Prochain point, numéro 13, demande des renseignements par les membres du conseil. Donc, si vous aviez
inquiries by council members. If you had any questions for items that were not on the agenda, it would be the time to do so. Councillor Paul Boudreau, can I ask a question to Plan 360, your representative? Since you're still there, it's on building permits. People call us to see what is the process like when someone like is requesting a building permit. What is the follow-up after? Because a project was done, you follow the standards like to get the building permit, and what what's on the lot is not necessarily what was asked for. Can you tell me what is the follow-up? As soon as you get your permit, you can start construction, but according to the project, it could be for inspection, but it's up to the applicant to call us, and then quickly we'll go to the site. If ever it's a little bit different, we'll look like and if we can adjust like the permit, or if we have to, if they have to apply for a new permit, like to, and we study case by case like that. So the applicant has to contact you like for the inspection, so they go at their own pace for construction. So they call us. And there's a card saying like when it's the time to.
C'est obligatoire, ça?
Is it mandatory?
Donc, ils vont à l'inspection, c'est ça?
Yeah,
OK, c'est ça.
Ouais.
OK, c'est ça que je voulais savoir. Merci bien.
Thank you.
OK.
Vas-y.
Mon deuxième point, M. le maire, c'est un peu d'explication à ce qui arrive au numéro
A little
4.
bit explanation what's happening number 4, like on the agenda.
J'aimerais voir la clarification.
I would like to get the
que la raison d'être pourquoi
clarification.
la motion n'a pas été emportée. Moi, au mois de juin, l'année passée, j'ai emporté une
In
motion.
June, I brought a
J'ai
motion.
respecté le vote. C'était 9-3
I respected the
contre.
vote. It was 9-3
respecté ça.
against. I
Puis là,
respected this.
2-3 mois passés, on a porté
2-3 months ago, we brought another motion for the composition of the council. So what's the difference? This motion and what's happening this evening? Essentially, this evening is simply like in all meetings without an exception, that the council adopts its agenda. And it's published and provided. So that agenda has to be adopted to be used. If it's if the agenda is amended, we go with the amended version, essentially. But the agenda that is presented has to be adopted in order to proceed. I found it a bit frustrating, like a council member had the courage to bring a motion forward to make progress on the file. The committee members, I always respect like the vote. Like if someone does not agree with the motion, can decide, because completely you completely like remove like the intent of the council members like to bring a motion. To my knowledge, we follow like the process. We gave like a 2 weeks notice. We notify Sylvain. We follow all like the directions. And I think it's a lack of respect like against the council members. And I don't know if they recall. I don't want to go over if some calls were made to influence the decision that was taken at 6:10 this evening. Any calls like to influence your vote or no? Okay. So yeah, it's quite silent. So I'm quite deceived with what happened with the item 4. Can we bring a motion? Oh, we don't like it. So a little bit, there's controversy. Let me finish, please. It stopped the debate 100%, this motion totally. We did not even go further. That's all. If the council had adopted like the agenda as presented, we would have it. Next one, Councillor Joël Després.
OK. Ça, c'est weird.
Yeah.
Conseiller Janice Cormier.
Councillor Janice Cormier.
Offrir la rétraction.
Can I offer like retraction for item, the point for Councillor Boudreau? Councillor Boudreau had a question. I answered that question.
Moi que c'était une question. Oui.
I have a question too. Notice of motion, can we vote on a notice of motion? When notice of motion is giving a meeting, regardless of the item, a council member can give a notice of motion. It means like it will put the item on the agenda for the next regular meeting, but the council still has to adopt the agenda as presented. So because notice is bringing a notice of motion does not necessarily guarantee that it will be discussed. It means it will be for discussion, but the council still has to adopt its agenda. So it means like a notice of motion. So when we do a notice, it goes on the agenda. It's on the agenda, vote on the agenda like we receive.
Conseiller O'Brien.
Councillor Emile O'Brien.
Comme c'est là, c'est une motion que j'ai
As
travaillé
you said, it's
dessus.
a motion. I worked pretty hard on it.
Préparé.
I took some time to prepare it. So thank you also like to ruin it. Well,
Je peux pas comprendre.
I cannot understand like I followed all the regulations. I brought the motion to.
J'ai fait ma sales pitch.
I did my sales pitch for the meeting on the 22nd. And I announced my notice of motion out of the blues. Well, no discussion on the motion. Is it fair? No, I don't think it's fair. But is it legal? Well, I don't know. I do not agree with what you said or did. I say publicly that it's not right. So my intent were good. It was goodwill. I wanted to do the right thing. And I still believe, even after all this, we need like a water access on Riverside Drive. Nothing will change. The right place was proven that it was in their recommendation in Globe and in their report. And I'm done. Thank you.
Ce que je vais indiquer, c'est un vote du conseil qui a été fait.
It's a vote from the council. That was the council voted.
Lorsque c'est égal, oui, je vote.
When it's equality, like I vote. If it's not equal, I do not vote.
Councillor O'Brien,
je
comprends qu'est-ce que tu dis.
I understand what you're saying. I hear you.
C'est le conseil qui fait un vote. C'est tout simplement
the council votes. Simply that's what it is.
Councillor O'Brien.
I did my work. Councillor O'Brien, thank you.
Councillor Patricia Bouchevary.
Councillor Patricia Bouchevary, thank you, Mister. I will just say like a couple of words. Like.
Puis je comprends ce que tu as fait, mais dans tous les
what you did, but in other years, it's the first time like a remove an item that we brought.
Mon opinion, il aurait peut-être dû
My opinion, maybe it should have stayed there. It would have voted. I did not understand that. I know like the council voted, but still you brought like the suggestion to remove that item. It's the first time we had an item on the agenda to reconsider the decision of the council. And it was brought by council members. To my knowledge, what Paul said, we voted against, like to review like the composition of the council. We came back. We brought another motion that went against them, and the council could I decide, yes, we do not want to consider this item. The council voted to consider. So before bringing it now, we did, because I already decided, because that's what you did this evening. It's how you said for the composition of the council was after discussion that the council was brought by the administration, the same as looking to review the procedural bylaw, the code of ethics. I know what you understand. I understand what Paul is saying, but I understand it was coming from the administration. So it could have said that we decided it stayed like as is. So I don't understand what's good for one time, but it's not good for the other one. So it's my comment. Like I kind of agree with Paul. Thank you. I don't know where the line is drawn.
Question, conseiller Peterborough.
Question, Peterborough. To the clerk, like what happened. So
au niveau du Code Morin,
for the Code Morin, was it done properly?
Oui.
Yes.
Code Morin dit dans un sens qu'un
Code Morin says in the sense like anytime like an agenda can be amended. So in a sense, we need like any council member will amend the agenda and say what item can be removed or added. And then it's voted by the council member. Can the mayor do it? It's not the mayor like presented a motion to amend. It was the deputy mayor who presented, who made the motion. It's not the mayor, we did it. To answer your question, Councilor Burrow, like the council, the mayor cannot present a motion, but the deputy mayor, as a council mayor, can do it. Thank you.
Prochain point, numéro 14.
Next item, 14.
14.1.
14.1.
Troisième lecture.
The third reading
pour l'arrêté Z-14.
For the bylaw Z,
9Z.
44Z, and I think it was one property that put that at the same time, the 60Z. So
seulement pour aller à travers ces
it's to go through those third readings.
On aura la nouvelle lecture pour
Then we'll have the new reading for the new bylaw. It's the overall Main Street, like for commercial. Councilor Joël Després.
14.1 arrêté Z-14.
The bylaw Z44 5Z and P14-36-INVEN-P, third reading. Be it resolved that the bylaw entitled Bylaw Z-14-44-59Z, and a bylaw amending the Town of Shediac zoning bylaw, be read a third time by its title and its entirety.
Proposé par le Conseil Joël Després.
Moved by Councilor Joël Després, seconded by Député Mayor Sylvie Colette-Boudreau. Questions?
Sinon, tous en faveur, on dira
If
oui.
not, all in favor, saying 5 as saying 5. Against, nay.
Adopté. Monsieur Grégory.
Motion, Mr. Clerk.
Z-14.
Bylaw,
Z,
for a bylaw modifying the zoning bylaw, Z-14-44,
des pouvoirs que lui confère la loi
notwithstanding of all the
conseil municipal de Shediac prend ce qui suit. L'arrêté de zonage
that the bylaw for
Z-14 avril 2014
on the April 28th and registered at the Westmoreland County 33-79-59-73 on May 23rd, 2015, and modify Appendix A like zoning map for the town of Shediac and mention like in the bylaw is modified by this one as A59. Be it resolved that you accept like the third reading of the bylaws that 15.4 by its title and its title. Moved by Councilor Joël Després, seconded by Sylvie Colette-Boudreau, Deputy Mayor. All in favor, signify saying aye. Against, nay.
Adopté.
Motion carried.
Ça, c'est la motion pour les conditions.
This is the motion for the condition. Whereas, like the municipal council accepted the request made by John Thompson to rezone a portion of the property bearing property identification number 704-04348 in the town of Shediac from general commercial GC zone to high density residential in order to allow 3 multi-unit dwellings of 18 units each. Be it resolved that the following conditions apply to the bylaw Z-14-44-59Z. Number 1, notwithstanding all other provision to the contrary, the land, buildings, and structures on the above mentioned property are subject to the following terms and conditions. That A, that the development be in general conformity with the site plan, elevations, and drawings provided in Schedule B59. B, that a traffic impact study prepared by a professional engineer licensed to practice in the province of New Brunswick be submitted to the Director of Municipal Operation, that all work recommended in the study be completed, and that a copy of the Director's approval be given to the Southeast Regional Service Commission prior to the issuance of a building and/or development permit. That notwithstanding Section 11.4B of the Town of Shediac zoning bylaw, Council accepts to increase the maximum front yard setback conformant with the site providing in Schedule B59. D, that notwithstanding Section 11.5 of the Town of Shediac zoning bylaw, the Council accepts to allow localization of the parking lot in the front yard. E, that the new sanitary trunk sewer shall be constructed and operational prior to the issuance of a building and development permit. F, that prior to the issuance of a building and/or development permit, the development be approved by the fire chief. 2, subject to Section 1 of this resolution, all provisions prescribed in zoning bylaw Z-14-44 for the high-density residential zone shall apply mutatis mutandis. I shall move. This is Latin. It's not something we learn in school. Not your age, anyway.
No.
He said, no, not mine either.
Donc, proposé par le Conseil Joël Després.
Moved by Councilor Joël Després, seconded by
Sylvie Colette-Boudreau.
Sylvie Colette-Boudreau. Questions on
Merci,
Councilor Roland Commieux. So,
j'aurais une
I would have a question like for the people of Plan 360, the recommendation, like the conditions. I don't see like there was a citizen like who mentioned a concern. He was talking about of trees, like apple trees. And the owner agreed like to plant some apple trees, and he was also asking about the fence. And the owner was ready to do by accepting this as it's written in this evening. So with this resident who had some concern, will be happy like with our approval, or we did not consider it like the two only concern like he had mentioned. So in the condition it says to follow like the plan, and there are some trees. So for us it's difficult to put a condition like for the type of species of tree in the fence. So we met like with the request of this individual. If and I asked like the question to the owner, if the owner agrees like to plant an apple tree, and the resident they want like apple trees. Can we put in the resolution like apple trees? No, I don't think it's difficult like to get in such details and as for specific species of trees. So that's why I was asking the question.
Okay. Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Monsieur Greffier?
Mr. Clerk. It's simply like the conditions do not only apply like to this specific project in the future. So if we put something like apple trees, well, it's becoming to be very specific. But I remember like there was an agreement between the two parties, like the meeting. That's why we had public hearing, and often like there's something we cannot settle. But this one, I thought it was something that was too demanding. So that's why I asked like the owner to see if he had a problem, and publicly he said no problem with this. If you have something publicly, I'm just trying to bring it in the motion, so to ensure like the residents of the area are satisfied. The public hearing was this evening, and no letter or no support or objection letters were sent. So if it was brought, it's something that would have come up in public hearing, but it was during the public presentation the last time. Like
Sur ce,
this note with the
on avait proposé appuyer sur ce. Tous en faveur, on dira oui.
All in favor, signify saying aye.
Contre non.
Against nay. Motion carried.
Il en reste deux autres. Conseiller des
two others. Councillor Després. Be it resolved that by law P-14-36 11P, a bylaw amending Shediac municipal be read by its title and its entirety. Moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette. All in favor, signify saying aye. Against nay. Motion carried. Mr. Clerk.
Arrêté numéro
P-14-36
11P, a bylaw modifying the Shediac municipal plan P-14-30 by the power like planning the municipal council of Shediac, the town Shediac on the April 28, 2014, and registered Westmount on the 3360 on May 20, and modify as follows. Schedule identify town of Shediac zoning map whenever it is mentioned to the sex zoning bylaw on the map dated November, and on page schedule A11 on the bylaw by modified designation on a portion of the PID 70, 40, 43, 48 to residential as described in schedule A11 included. Be it resolved that bylaw P-14-36 11P by its title and its title, I shall move. Moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Sylvie Colette Boudreau, Deputy Mayor. All in favor, signify saying aye. Against nay.
Adopté. Merci.
Thank you.
Celle-là était longue, puis l'autre
This one was long,
un
so
petit peu moins longue.
not as long, but
Conseil des prix veut encore.
Councillor Després, if he still wants 14.2-40Z and P1436-12P. Third reading, be it resolved that the bylaw Z 1444-60Z, a bylaw modifying the Shediac by be read the third time by this time.
Proposé par le conseiller Joël
Moved by
Després.
Councillor Joël Després, seconded by
Conseillère Germaine Galland.
Councillor Jean-Maine Galland.
Tous en faveur, en diront oui.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Non.
Against nay.
Adopté.
Motion carried.
Arrêté numéro Z,
Bylaw Z4060Z, a bylaw amending zoning bylaw 1444 of the town of Shediac.
En vertu des pouvoirs que lui
The
confère
council
la
of the
loi sur
town
la
of Shediac,
urbanisme
under the authority vested in the community planning act, makes as follows. The town of Shediac zone bylaw being bylaw number Z 1444 enacted on the 28th of April 2014 and filed the Westmoreland in the Westmoreland County as November number 3379597 on May 20th is by amended follows. Schedule A entitled Town of Shediac zoning map whenever mentioned in the text of the zoning bylaw as is amended by map and attached schedule that we accept the first reading bylaw Z 1444-60Z by style moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Councillor Jean-Maine Galland. Questions on the motion?
Sinon, tous en faveur, en diront oui.
If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Against nay.
Adopté.
Motion carried.
Prochaine motion.
Attendu que le conseil
Whereas, like the town,
la demande de changement de
accepted like the zoning down in Windshield or Inc. to rezone the property PID 707 by the town of Shediac from general commercial to residential high density in order to accommodate like a multifamily dwelling with 11 units. Be it resolved that the town applies to this, notwithstanding of all other provision to the contrary, the lands, building, and structures on the above mentioned property are subject to the following terms and conditions. That notwithstanding section 11.4 of the zoning bylaw, the maximum setback is 80 meters. That notwithstanding section 11.6.1, the main building shall be permitted to be one story, and that notwithstanding section 40.3 of the zoning bylaw, the maximum driveway width is 7.6 meters.
Mon noté, c'est 40.3, pas 44.3.
Je m'excuse.
40.3, not the 44.
C'est sa seule faute après tout ce texte-là.
It's the only mistake after all this. Moved by Councillor Joël Després,
Germaine Galland.
seconded by Councillor Jean-Maine Galland. Questions on the motion?
Sinon, tous en faveur, on dit
Not
oui.
all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Contre, non.
Against nay.
Adopté.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the P-1436-12P bylaw modifying the municipal plan be read the third reading, and it's moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Councillor Jean-Maine Galland. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Against nay. Motion carried. Mr. Clerk. The bylaw P-1436-12P, a bylaw amending the Shediac Municipal Development Plan number P-14-36. The Council of the Town of Shediac, under the authority vested by the Community Planning Index as follows. The Town of Shediac Municipal Development Plan being P-1436 enacted on the April 28, 2014 and found the Westmoreland County Register Office as number 33796005 on May 23, 2014 is hereby amended as follows. The map entitled Land Use attached as Schedule A of the Municipal Development Plan is hereby amended as the map dated November 19, 2024 attached as Schedule A12 of this bylaw by changing the designation of the properties bearing PID 707-04168 to residential R and further described on the attached Schedule A12. Attached. Be a result of the third reading of the bylaw P-14-36-12 by moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland.
Tous en faveur, en diront oui.
All in favor, saying aye.
Contre, non. Adopté. 14.3 arrêté
Carried.
Z-14
14 dash first reading. Be it resolved that the filing of bylaw P-14 that modifying the zoning bylaw be authorized, and that this is be read if do first reading by title. Moved by Councillor Joël Dupré, seconded by Councillor Germain Galland. Questions? I know it's a new one. Otherwise, all those in favor shall say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Mr. Clerk, bylaw Z-44-61Z, modifying the zoning bylaw Z-44 of the town of Shediac. Be it resolved that we accept the first reading of Z-14-44-60Z by its title, proposed by the Councillor Joël Dupré, seconded by Councillor Germain Galland. All those in favor shall say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Thank you for that very terribly exciting section. I think we can nearly if we can just about congratulate Councillor Dupré for having read all that. Motions and resolutions. So now we're at 15.1 for the financial statements. Just to give a bit of background here, just simply, the financial statements were presented tonight by the auditing firm, and we require a resolution to approve the financial statements as presented. Thank you. Councillor Germain Galland, would you like to read it? Oh, that's very nice of you. 2024 financial statements. Be it resolved that Council approve the consolidated financial statements of the town of Shediac for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2024, as presented. I so move. Moved by Councillor Germain Galland, seconded by Councillor Harry McElroy. Any questions? Councillor Donald Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. The questions that I asked of Stephanie will have a follow-up, and I would suggest that we do the follow-up with the whole council. Come back with a report on that. All those in favor shall say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next item, 15.2, meeting, changing the dates. Inaudible? Aha. Aha. I had seen it as that. I thought it would be coming. Inaudible. Actually, the meeting was supposed to happen on May 19th. It was moved to the May 20th, but in the evening, there's the premier supper, actually. So there are members of the council who cannot be present. And so we want to move the meeting to May 21st. It's just to move the meeting to May 21st to accommodate that's the second meeting. It's the second meeting of the month of May, actually. Councillor Cormier, the 21 on May 21. There's a sewer meeting. There's a sewer commission meeting where the mean Councillor Janice won't be there. It could be remote. Many are used to that. Thank you for raising that. Thank you, Your Worship. Instead of moving it, could we have it? Or is the CAO gone as well? The CAO and the clerk are here on the 21st, on the 20th, rather. I'd be pleased. I'd be pleased to chair the meeting instead of changing everything. And well, on the 21st, I was going to have two meetings. I was going to do them back to back. It was a doable thing, though. Thank you, Patricia. It's fine by me. I can put up my big girl pants and sit around the table. It's a paid holiday. It's the Queen's Day. Victoria Day.
La préparation qui se fait durant le
There's
jour
some
même,
preparation happening on the the very day of it.
Donc,
So,
j'ai pas, vous savez le contenu, est-ce que
you know the content
en termes de déplacer la réunion
in
d'une
terms of
journée?
moving the meeting by a day. If it's the desire of the council, I would need a motion to do so.
Je sais que c'est pas le désir du conseil.
If it's not the desire of the council, we'll just move to the next item.
Conseillère Patricia Bourgeois?
Councilor Patricia Brooks-Chevrolet? Well, I would move that the meeting not be on the 20th. It's already set out for the 20th, so we don't need a motion to leave it there. Well, let's leave it there.
On va retirer la motion.
So I'd like to, let's remove the motion. If the motion is not moved or seconded, as it is now, we'll just move on to the next point. Well, that's why I put to be determined.
Il était prévoyant.
See, he foresaw these things.
Prochain point, numéro
Next
15.
item, 15.3.
Extension de la rue Beaubridge, phase 2.
Extension of Bro Street Extension Phase 2, Mr. CAO. We opened the call for tenders for the Phase 2 Bro Bridge Street Extension. I'll allow Director of Municipal Operations to present the outcomes of the opening of bids and answer any questions that the council might have. Good evening to all. Yes, the tender was closed for Phase 2 of Bro Bridge on March 31st. It was below the budgeted amount. That's a good thing. We had 6 submissions, and the lowest bid was by East Coast Construction Inc. They are the ones who did Phase 1 at the Bedview Heights and the first phase of Bro Bridge last year, in the summer. They know the site well, and they were very competitive with their bid. So there's no reason not to go forward with that contractor. We have had good experience with them. So the recommendation would be to grant the contract. There's a small item. We're going to see it in the previous meeting, but we had to delay things a bit. There's a little question around the land transfer. Things have pretty much in place, so we're very comfortable going forward. Thank you for that information. Councillor Paul Boudreau, would you like to read it? Yes, I have a question after. Yes, yes, it's my pleasure. Therefore, be it resolved to award the contract TS252. Oh, that's an S. I have to zoom in here. 25-2-23601 for the extension of Bro Bridge Street Phase 2 to East Coast Construction Inc. in the amount of $7,704,336.80. Net HST included. Funds will be withdrawn from the funding approved by the New Brunswick Municipal Capital Borrowing Board. I so move, and I'll have a question after. Moved by Councillor Paul Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Jean-Marie Galland. Question, Councillor Boudreau. Just in terms of design, people are asking me, is there a roundabout on Ohio Road? No, not for that project. It's not planned to have one at that intersection. Thank you. That was my question. And the works don't quite get to Ohio Street. That part of the street is already done. It's up to Kent. It's done, but we have to put some piping, some new piping, some new sanitary pipe. So it'll be broken up to connect. It'll connect to Ohio. Deputy Mayor, question. Thank you, Your Worship. It's not usually the one. I'm not the one who looks at the numbers, but I'm looking at bridge extension to the award, where the EXP gave us a little chart with different bidders. East Coast at 8 million and some odd thousand, HST included. But what we see in the motion is indicating 7,704,000 different figures. There's probably a good reason. It's a difference between the HST of 15% and the net HST. We always indicate it without HST.
Sounds good.
That sounds good. So, all those in favor shall say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. 15.4 Calder Street project. Mr. CAO, there were two other bids that were opened, in particular the Calder Street one, same as the previous point. I'll allow Director of Municipal Operations to speak to it. For this one, the tender closed April 29th, and once again, we received 6 bids, and most of them, once again, were below the estimated amount. So in this case, the estimated amount was a bit over 2.5 million in net HST included, and the lowest company was Pavage GR Legacy, and they had a bid of 2.3 odd million. Staff is recommending to go forward and grant them the contract. Great, thank you. Councillor Germain Galland, would you like to move it? Thank you, Your Worship. Calder Street project. Therefore, be it resolved to award contract TS25-23705 for the reconstruction of Calder Street to Pavage GR Legacy Incorporated in the amount of 2,326,009. I said it wrong, sorry. Let me rephrase that. 2,326,954.38 net HST included. Funds will come from the financing request approved by the New Brunswick Municipal Capital Borrowing Board. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Germain Galland, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin. I have a question, Your Worship. Go ahead. I thought you were going to change it for Hamilton Street. I'm not going there. I thought that we were doing Como Street first. And what happened with all that? There were some challenges. They had all three on our radar: Hamilton, Como, and Calder. Don't make me say it. And ultimately, for this year, Calder was the one that didn't have any problems related to land to be resolved, and logically, it made sense to go in this direction. I thought Como and then this one, the priorities, there's also GSSC that we have to coordinate with that one. It was in discussion during the budget. We discussed that it would be Calder during the budget discussion, but our 5-year plan will remove all these mysteries going forward. But yes, priorities were such that it was Calder that was a logical choice. I think that there was some question of having to buy some plots of land, I believe. Councillor Paul Boudreau, questions? I'm going to do like Sylvie, I'll look in the numbers. I was looking in the document, Bob, that you have all the details for what you're doing. Concrete sidewalk. There's a sidewalk that we make from one end to the other. Right now, there's not one right now. There'll be a sidewalk added through over the course of the work. The largest part of the work would be from the mall going down towards the shore. There's a bit of work going up to Maine, nearly Maine, but not quite Maine, for water pipes that have to be replaced there. Going to shore, there'll be sidewalk on one side of the road. Thank you very much.
Check mark.
One check mark for sidewalks. Councillor Roland Cormier, you have a question. You think, Your Worship, it's not a question, it's a comment. Tonight, I would congratulate you, Bob. Tonight, you're coming with bringing several projects to us and many bids. As a councillor, I appreciate this. I know that I'm sometimes hard on you because you don't have many bids, but I'm going to give you your palms here, and I'm really pleased. Mr. CAO, if I might add as well, there's a trend that we're seeing is that the market is very competitive, and we're seeing prices that are on in our favor. The engineer's estimate was higher than the price that was awarded. So if that trend can continue, there'll be some savings that we can look forward to in some of our projects. Great. So, with that, on that, all those in favor shall say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. And 15.5, a trail culvert replacement project. Same type of file. I'll have the director present the results of the bid, the outcome of the bid. Same type of thing here. The tender closed April 24th. The engineering estimate was in the amount of 1.189 million, I think, with including HSNET. 3 bids were received, and the lowest was Dexter Construction in the an amount just slightly below that estimate, 1.125 and a little bit more. And once again, we'd recommend going forward with that one. Thank you. Madam Deputy Mayor, shall you read it? Yes, absolutely. And I'll have a small comment afterwards. Trail culvert replacement product. Be it resolved to award contract TS 24-23996 for the replacement of 2 trail culverts to Dexter Construction Company Limited in the amount of $1,125,245.94, net HST included. The funds will come from the financing request approved by the New Brunswick Municipal Capital Borrowing Board. I so move. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette-Boudreau, seconded by Paul Boudreau. Any question? You have a question, Madame Sylvie Colette-Boudreau. Thank you, Your Worship. My question also goes for the 2 others that we just adopted or passed. Once again, I'm not the financial guru here, but what worries me a bit here, I'm thinking that the engineers had based our budgets before or after the whole tariffs thing. I'm a bit worried what happens if we're halfway through a project and all of a sudden the costs of construction costs in Dexter's building right now should skyrocket. Well, now they're going to lose their shirt over this one. I feel like at some point we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's happened to projects before, provincial projects, where the contractor lost money and then they walked away. So I don't know. Do we have some insurance against this? We must, huh? Bob, can you answer? Our insurance is that we have a tender with unit prices for all the materials that are used in the project. That's the leverage that we have. You gave me your unit price per ton of asphalt, etc. Most of the materials are local. The rock, there's some piping, some fitting, some valves. That could be subject to that. But in their tender, they give us unit prices for those things.
That's our leg to stand on.
That's our leg to stand on. There's some precedent. It's in a contractual agreement that we're entering into. As we grant this contract, that the construction price will be at that price. As the director of operations was saying, a lot of the construction materials in terms of roads is local. It's local materials. It's asphalt, petroleum is always an issue, but it's a price that they give us, and we sign a set contract that way. There's different ways to grant a contract, but the way that we've granted it, it's a contractual agreement at that price.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Paul Boudreau, you have a question? 3 questions, 1 to Bob, 1 to Julie, and 1 to Sylvain. Regarding the culvert, yes? When will the works begin and how long will it take? The works are scheduled to start the start of August. It's going through August into September. 2 months, about 2 months. So to Julie, will there be a detour? For the moment, we're planning on closing it. We'll inform people that they use Main Street and Greenwood Street. But we don't have a trail designated. We don't have the land for it. Sylvain, communications plan for this? Yes, it's coming. It will come once we have the date set and that we know that everything will be going forward. Yes, indeed. To add to what Julie is saying, we can't really announce a detour, though, not publicly. It's also going by Main Street is not the same thing as going on a trail. But we will inform people as much as we can with a comms plan and regular inform them before it's happening. That's the connection with Pat Duchesne and everything. The dates were selected actually based on that. As we spoke to the team, we're trying to push it as far back into summer as possible. It would limit sort of disturbances during the summer. Thanks to all. I'd like to add a small comment. There's a Wawa that we'll need for that work. There's water courses involved. So the windows to do that work as part of a Wawa have to be completed before September 30th. That was the starting point, and then we went, well, it's a minimum of 8 weeks. Yes, we received the input that it would have been good to have a part of it open for part of August, but we couldn't have respected the window that we needed to do for the Wawa. Thank you very much. So, all those in favor shall say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. So, no appointments to committees tonight. So, just mention that the next meeting will be May 20th at 6 o'clock. Same time, same place. I would need a motion for adjournment right now. Moved by Councillor Jean-Ben Galland. Thank you. Inaudible. Inaudible.